how knowing my numbers possibly could save me $127,000 on this deal that I'm going to highlight here coming up. But this video will be about understanding what tools you have available when you're in a situation where you have a property to sell that it might be challenging to sell with a buyer trying to obtain traditional financing right now. For example, it's November 2024. We all know interest rates are high and have been high for a long time. Affordability is really challenging. If rates were back down to 3, 4, 5, or even 6%, there's so many more people that would be willing and able to buy. But that doesn't mean that you still can't get fairly top dollar for your house by being a little creative. But you got to understand all the intricacies and the options available to you. One, if you're challenging to sell your house and you need to move and you have a really good interest rate now, you could just rent the property. But that's not going to give you any cash right now if you need a little bit of liquidity. If you need a little bit of liquidity, you could consider seller financing the house to a borrower, whether you still owe on the property or whether you own it free and clear. You could get a pretty sizable down payment and then offer favorable terms to a borrower or a buyer that could then buy your house, and it could be a win-win where you'd get maybe not as much equity as you'd want, but you'd get a chunk of equity. You'd have someone else taking over responsibility of your property, and then you can move on. But in order to do that, you got to be aware of what current rent rates are, what seller financing rates might be, how that might impact the mortgage you own or don't own if you own it free and clear. And then from there, you can make some different assumptions and strategies to kind of make the best of what might be an overall challenging situation, given how hard it is right now to finance properties. We can all go back in time 3, 4 years ago when rates were at 3%. Nobody needed to consider these because it was so easy for anybody and everybody to get a loan. Everything was somewhat affordable and you were off and running. But when it gets a little bit challenging, you got to use your brain a little bit and consider all the possible outcomes, all the tools you have available to you, and all the possible inputs as far as rents, interest rates, arbitrage, stuff like that, so you can make the most informed decision. So here's one brief example that I've just gone through of how we did that on a property that we did a loan on that we were having a challenge getting out of.